If you serve 100 doctor clients, statistically chances are good that 1 to 5 of them could be victims of financial abuse right now, and you might be the only one who sees this. Why does this matter? Well, financial abuse is present in nearly every case of domestic violence. Advisors often have the first and sometimes only opportunity to recognize it. If you miss it, a client could lose their savings, their security, or their safety. If you catch it, you could protect their freedom and their future. So, as uncomfortable as this conversation is, you have the chance to make a significant impact. I want to welcome you to the Engaging Doctors podcast. Here you'll get information about how to attract, engage, and serve more doctor clients. I'm Dr. Vicki Rackner, your host. If we've not met, I'm a retired surgeon who has spent the past 15 years helping financial advisors grow their business. Okay, so let me start with the story. This week, I got an email inviting me to a webinar hosted by the American College of Surgeons entitled Breaking the Cycle: What to Know About Financial Abuse. The email said that October is Intimate Partner Violence Month and pointed out that IPV and financial abuse go hand in hand. Well, we physicians treat patients involved with IPV. I remember years ago as a surgeon, I was on call for the emergency room, and I was asked to see a woman who had a number of fractured ribs and a collapsed lung. I asked her what happened. She told me that she and her husband were out on a hike. She tripped and fell down into the ravine. Well, it was kind of odd because her husband was always at her bedside. But one day when I rounded, he was gone. I said, "Could you tell me again what happened?" And she whispered the truth. That day, her husband had hit her and kicked her down into the ravine. She'd lived through years of abuse. So that was the first time I realized that domestic violence doesn't always look like what we imagine. That sometimes the people who need help most are the ones who look put together. So anyway, when I showed up for this webinar, I got a surprise. 2 female surgeons told their stories of being under the control of abusive partners. They had experienced financial abuse themselves. Their partners had tried to hide money or removed their access to accounts or demanded job swaps. The focus of this webinar addressed what happens when physicians were the victims of financial abuse. Well, I knew that this was a possibility. In fact, years ago, my husband and I had a friendship with another couple. He was a physician. She worked in business. They lived a picture-perfect life. Well, one day we got a call from the physician husband who said, "I'd like to ask you something and you can say no. My wife just took out a restraining order on me and I can't go home. May I stay with you?" Even though I felt kind of creepy when I was around him, we said yes. It wasn't too long until we invited him to find another place to live. But to be quite honest, I thought that this was just the exception, that physicians as a group were somehow immune to some of the challenges that we see other people having, like domestic violence. However, here is what I learned in this webinar. Up to 1 in 4 female physicians and 1 in 10 male physicians are involved in intimate partner violence. This is not just a one-off thing. This is a real thing. And as I said, if you are seeing 100 doctor clients, chances are good that right now somebody you know is being abused. What do you do? Well, I'd like to talk about that. I also want to let you know that if you go below in the notes, you will find a link to download a resource that will help you identify the red flags for financial abuse and then take the next steps. Now, remember, this information is for educational purposes only and does not constitute legal or compliance advice. Always follow your firm's policies and applicable laws. If you think that somebody might be in danger, contact thehotline.org for confidential help. First, let's talk about the red flags that you might notice if one of your physician clients is involved with IPV. It may be that the partner attends all meetings and even answers for the client. Maybe the client apologizes or appears anxious when discussing spending. Be curious if you see sudden changes to account access or password or contact details. You might wonder if this person constantly is facing family emergencies that repeatedly drain cash reserves. You might be wondering if they need new credit accounts or loans in the client's name. Maybe you see a career shift or lifestyle shift that doesn't really match their financial goals. Maybe medical conferences or CME travel are canceled without a clear reason. And maybe there are frequent references to needing permission before making financial decisions. Listen to your intuition. Oftentimes, you'll know something just isn't right. And as you're observing your client, watch for a shift in tone from confidence and collaboration to secrecy or shame or anxiety. As long as we're talking about financial abuse in a family, let us not forget about aging parents or elderly clients. Financial abuse doesn't always come from a spouse. It can come from the children or caregivers or even acquaintances. So your antennas should go up if new friends or helpers suddenly take control of accounts. If there are unexplained withdrawals or transfers, if there are changes in beneficiaries or wills or POAs, if the bills or property taxes go unpaid despite available funds, if a client seems confused about financial statements or recent transactions, and of course there are the withdrawal for urgent needs or special projects by others. Did you know that elder financial exploitation costs Americans over $28 billion each year? And again, you as a financial advisor are often the first to see it. Now, look for red flags in behavior or language. Sometimes the signs show up not in numbers, but in words or body language. So, for example, if one of your clients says, "Oh, I have to ask before I spend," or "I really don't handle that anymore," or "We've just been under a lot of stress lately," or "It's easier if my spouse just takes care of everything," these could be red flags. Also, notice discomfort when reviewing joint statements, or fear or guilt around money conversations, or a withdrawn or hesitant body language when the partner is present. What feels like delegation may actually be dependency. Your awareness can open the door to safety. Next, what do you do if you suspect financial abuse? Well, no one's asking you to be a therapist and diagnose domestic violence or confront the situation. Simply notice and then take appropriate, compliant actions. So the first step is document what you see. So record the facts, what actually happened. So for example, client's partner answered all financial questions and declined private conversations. Step 2, create a safe space. Request a private conversation with your client. You can say something like, "I might be overstepping, but I've noticed a few changes. Would it be okay if we take a moment to review your protections?" Step 3, You have at your disposal FINRA compliance tools, and I've listed them in the handout that you can find below. Then step 4 is offer confidential resources. So the hotline.org is a great resource. There's also the National Council on Aging, and again, those resources are listed in the handout. Step 5 is protect without confronting. So never confront a suspected abuser. Your role is to protect your client's autonomy, not mediate these relationships. Next, use empowering language. Here's how to communicate concern with empathy and professionalism. So instead of saying, "Are you being abused?" or "You shouldn't let somebody do that," or "You're being taken advantage of," try saying, "Would you like to review who has access to your accounts?" Or "Let's make sure you have full visibility in your finances." Or "I want to help you protect your financial independence." Remember, compassion and curiosity can open doors the confrontation closes. Next, remember, the best way to accelerate your business growth is to serve your doctor clients well. When you protect what matters most, their autonomy and their dignity and their safety, you create trust that leads to loyalties and introductions and lasting growth. At Engaging Doctors, we call this the business growth cycle. So attract, engage, serve, earn trust, and grow. By spotting and addressing financial abuse with sensitivity and integrity, you not only protect your clients, you elevate your practice to one defined by care, competence, and courage. And as a last thought, financial abuse is not about love. It's about control. It can happen to anyone, including physicians, who dedicate their lives to caring for others. Your awareness as an advisor can help clients reclaim control over their finances, their safety, and their future. This is fiduciary care at its highest level. Serve with compassion, protect with purpose, grow through trust. Are you interested in learning more about how to grow your practice by working with more doctor clients? Well, right up here, you can watch a masterclass I've created for you about it.